regions are affected by the refugees and the crisis in general. Before we start our work later on, for the first session we will stay here in this room, and when we start our work in working groups, we will go outside, upstairs in a room where, well, it's just some meters from here, so we just have to change the room. But before we start that session, as I said, I would like to hand over to our colleague Marcos, who will invite us again, and especially our guest from Alentejo region. Please, Marcos, you want to come up for some words? Thanks.
Good morning. Welcome again. It's great to have you here with us in Alentejo. It's first time that we are meeting in person in the full configuration of REGAB, so that's I think it gives the event an additional responsibility, because as it was said yesterday, is the first time we are out of Brussels meeting. Rainer said it, so the idea is to do it again and again in other regions. Indeed, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to talk. I think there is REGAB is a very important platform within the structure of the Committee of Regions. That's the only one we are free to discuss agenda, political agenda that we may share with the Commission in future for future legislation. Of course, we can have a more passive attitude and just say, okay, we will again comment using our RUBs and that legitimacy to comment legislation that may pop up somewhere. But there is a very big responsibility for us every time our secretary asks us about what should be the next priorities and the big priorities. That's perhaps one of the effective ways that at a technical level to discuss with representatives from the regions and the Commission about the future agenda, about the agenda for the future. And we are in the Fit for Future platform, but the point is not only to be fit, it's really to be ready in all senses. So that's on REGAB, that's on us, that's a big responsibility. So I hope that now working face-to-face in the full configuration gives us the strength, the capability, and indeed the inspiration to fulfill that role. So that's why, in addition to the big pleasure of having you here in Alentejo, we feel also that's a very big responsibility for us to do our best to make this meeting to be a success, to be part of the group and loyally work with you all in order to achieve it, and of course to have to our secretariat the best possible support. They are doing an amazing job. I can't stop thanking Rainer, Rafael, Teresa for everything you are doing, and thank you very much for Rainer especially to accept the challenge of coming here, doing it so far away from Brussels, breaking that tradition of meeting all in Brussels. Europe is beyond Brussels everywhere, so let's use it, let's enjoy it, and let's make it be indeed a platform of regions and not only a Brussels-based activity. So, today, as Rainer said, we are facing some urgent matters, not only future legislation, not only commenting about existing initiatives. We have indeed to turn into practice, to turn into real something that was agreed, and thank you for our President Apostolos Tzitzikostas. That was agreed that as soon as possible, as far as possible, we have to do our best to include Ukrainian regions in REGAB activities. Sorry, in Committee of Regions activities. Let's start with REGAB as far as possible. Yesterday, I had directly from the European Commissioner for Regions the information that she agreed with the President of Committee of Regions to speed up the process of doing everything that is legally possible to insert Ukrainian regions in our activities. So that's why we have an Ukrainian guest, Professor Oksana Zamora, to help us translating it into real. We invited Ukrainian regions to speak. There are logistic problems that I hope you understand and may make the presentations to be not exactly in the planned times. We will arrange it during the day. Let's see. We are waiting for exactly fixing the calls. I have to say that the mayor of Kyiv is invited to be in the closing session, in the closing ceremony. That's again, see if it is possible. I think there are a lot of overlapping priorities for the Ukrainian officials facing such a situation, and you have to understand that they are everything in their reach. They are doing everything in their reach indeed to win this challenge, to win the war. We have to use the word, and they are doing it for them. They are doing it for their future. They are doing it for their freedom. But as everything started with an European flag waving in Kiev, they are also doing it under our flag. There is an image that will never erase from my mind. That's one of the dead persons that were found somewhere indeed died carrying an European flag in her hand there, because above all, this is not only an invasion, that is not only an aggression, that is a barbarian aggression, targeting civilians, targeting everywhere, and that's also targeting us, because it's targeting our values and targeting our future. We all know that if the problem, if the invasion, if the challenge, if the war turns wrong, there is no future for us as a union, because we will not be capable of standing, of supporting, of tolerating it. So we are with Ukraine fighting for combating the aggression, saving Ukraine, helping our neighbors and friends, but also fighting for the future of the Union. So this is a decisive moment. There are things in future that we will not be able to tolerate or to even consider living together if we don't solve it in the proper way. It's too bad, it's far too bad for us to try to ignore. So that's why I have to thank so much, Rainer, for your brave position on not hesitating on bringing the issue for our discussion, and indeed using RegUp to turning into practice that promise that was done at the highest level to include Ukrainian regions as far as it is possible, considering the adhesion process in the activities of Committee of Regions. So that's the commitment of our President directly. Let's try to fulfill that commitment, and that's for us at our level of representatives the opportunity to see how to make it in practice, to make it happen. It may not be easy, but even more difficult is what they are facing there. So it's going to be a big point all across this journey today, and all across the discussions we are going to have. We have, of course, the very big issue of setting an agenda we may share with the Commission and the other institutions for future legislation. I always remember the very good example of the Broadband Directive, where the Committee of Regions had a strong influence on starting it, and finally it's a good piece of legislation that's out there. We can do it again and again. Let's do it, and let's do it regularly, and let's use this special committee to do it. On top of that, we have already an agenda of pieces of legislation we have to comment, work to do with our regional hubs to keep the legitimacy of the work of RegUp. I very praise what we do, because indeed we are the only process, the only way for the Commission to have during the consultations, a consultation where individual persons, in their own legitimacy of citizens, NGOs, of course, great, lobbyists, not so good, and regions all together mixing their opinions. A region and a lobbyist is not the same thing. So here it's our role to organize the opinions from our regions, to make it strong, because that's the set of regions that is producing those opinions to the Commission, and to make it heard as it deserves by the Commission, respecting the specific role of regions, and making sure that we are not trying to build Europe without considering regions part of the process. Democracy is stronger in Europe if the regions are more present. Institutions will be closer to people if regions are more present in a lot of process, namely the key topic of this summit, regional digital transformation. Things work better at a regional level, we know it, and that's why it is working well in Alentejo, but our Vice President is going to say much more about it. So regions are the proper level to address a lot of issues. They have to be more present. There is an attitude that the Commission has to develop. That's the one of listening more respectfully, I would say, more properly and more efficiently to the regions. And doing our job in REGAB, we are showing that it works, it's possible, it's functional, and it's quick, because we are very quick producing our opinions. And indeed, it's an added value for the European legislative process. That's why this meeting is so important, even more because it's the first one in person. It's the first one in person with our full configuration. I'm a bit sorry that not all the regions could make it to come in person. Nevertheless, that's an important moment to keep our group, to make our group to be stronger, to develop a little bit a sense and the perception of being a team. So that's why we hope you enjoy to be together during these days. All this is possible only due to the European commitment of Alentejo. That's a commitment to cooperate with other regions. That's a commitment to work together, equal in diversity, but also similar in a lot of changes we find in common with other regions, to which we have to address and to be able to develop joint solutions. That's another thing that Europe has to do better, is cooperation, effective cooperation to investment in innovation and transformation for the regions. Let's address it later. But here in Alentejo, every time there is the opportunity to make it real, working with other regions, working with other partners at European level, we do it. So we do it because we have, let me use a word that may not be politically correct, because we have a brave leadership. I work daily with our Vice President. It's a huge pleasure. This is a personal word. I praise so much your courage. Without courage, there is no way for a politician to be able to deliver. So we are very grateful and a bit lucky to have you as Vice President. Thank you so much for supporting me on this crazy idea of having our REGAB colleagues that we praise so much to come here. Here it is, that's done, that's delivered, but indeed that's a responsibility, so why this is also about courage at the level of presidency and policy making. So now the floor is yours to help us, to inspire us by opening this meeting in a proper way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marcus, for your words, your kind words. I'm so glad to be here today, to be doing this welcome address to you. Our president is actually in a reunion about the funds for our regional funds for the next decade. So he can be here. So I'm glad and thankful that it's me to do this. Um, I want only to address some words to tell you that our region are strongly committed to be part of your work. So, and for that I want to tell you that as a regional government, we are in the middle of the link between the national government and the municipalities. So we have a strong work in many areas, such as the sustainability policies for all the work that are occurring in our region. Also, the circular economy, also mobility and transportation, decarbonization policies also for every works occurring in projects occurring in our region. Digital policies, because we want to be in the first place for digital transformation for a region that is a huge region, because we are a third of our country. So as a huge region, we have very different characteristics. We have the sea, so tourism, it's very important for us, but we have to deal with the problems about the water, and we have very important problems that we have to deal every day, because we have also the interior of the country, and we have also to deal with the transfrontiers projects. So we have to work every day with our neighbors, with the Spanish territory, and we have a lot of projects working in this area, such as we have there the Aeroways project, and we have to work also in the north and the south of the country, and also with Spain, and also with the sea. So this more than circular economy, we have also the blue economy, and we are strongly committed with every of these teams. So I really would like that you can consider Alentejo to be always a partner, a strong partner, and you can count with us in everything that you go ahead. Also, small words that to say that of course we are committed also with the Ukrainian issues. So but we have a light green from our president to put Marcus in this work. So, but please, you can count on us always. So thank you. I'm really glad to welcome you to Alentejo. I hope you enjoy our city, Évora, and also the region, the total of the region. Thank you so much to be here. So you can count to Alentejo to be partner of your work. Thank you so much.
Okay, Teresa, do we have green light for Bert's presentation? I don't know, Bert is available. We just have to let him in, and then he could start his presentation about the CR activities on the Ukraine help.
Yes, hello. I think I need to get the permission to share my screen. I'm not sure now if I'm already online live, but I cannot share my screen for my presentation. So
Can you hear me? Can you try and speak now?
okay, sorry for that little gap. Hello, everyone. I can't see anybody, but I'm sure the room is full. My name is Bert Kubi. I'm very happy to be with you from the distance. As we were just saying, I'm traveling through the space to come and meet you and to make a short presentation. I'm very happy to, first of all, that finally this external RECOP event in Aurora actually made it after this very long COVID pandemic period, so that you can all meet in a very nice place. So I envy you, but I'm happy to be connecting through this and to be back. You know, some of you remember that I was in the team launching the RECOP initiative. So in a way, I'm glad to be in a way with you today. Now, I was asked to talk about what I'm dealing with today, which is which I'm dealing with a lot, what the COR is dealing with a lot, which is the support work on Ukraine. And I've prepared a few slides which I want to share with you. And let me just not sure now which ones. I think I've just shared the wrong presentation. So let me just share the right one. So I'll introduce you a little bit the work that we're doing in support of the Ukraine. And I will give you, first of all, a bit the overview on our political work, on the political reaction immediately after the start of this brutal and war, really invasion of Ukraine by Russia. I'll show you a little bit through different types of support measures that we're having, in particular the Info Support Hub. The summer camps that we're doing together with Ukrainian associations of cities and regions, and then work that we're preparing, because after the war soon will come the reconstruction. So we have already been in touch with the EU institutions on rebuilding the Ukraine with the help of cities and regions. So first of all, coincidence wanted that COR had right after the start of the war on 24th of February, we had our biannual summit of regions and cities in Marseille on the 3rd and 4th of March, and that was really under the banner, as you can see here, this big room under the banner of this Ukraine invasion by Russia. A very emotional event, lots of solidarity by cities and regions that really are doing a tremendous work there to stand with Ukraine to provide humanitarian aid. And at this summit, also the COR showed solidarity as an institution by giving the mayor of Kiev, Vitaly Klitschko, who is a very active, visible person, of course, in this war and the contact with the EU. The COR gave this mayor of Kiev the honorary membership of the COR. There was also a declaration of solidarity, and soon also our work, we have a working group, so this is a specific body looking specifically at Ukraine, which also obviously discussed on the 30th of March, I mean, the humanitarian crisis, but also the refugees crisis in the EU regions. More work was done at the political work was done at the COR Bureau and plenary end of April. I won't go much into detail, but it's just to show that we also politically did quite a bit, also with a resolution with lots of testimonials from mayors of Kiev, who was also at our plenary, but also Lviv, Melitopol, Kharkiv, Mariupol. And there was a unanimously adopted resolution on Ukraine, of course, calling for an immediate stop of the war, but also of providing support to Ukraine and to Ukrainian refugees. Now, what we also did in this period, course of the months of March, early April, was that our leaders went to a mission, fact-finding mission to the Ukrainian border in Poland to get an idea of the situation with the millions of refugees which, because fleeing from the war, have crossed the border. And this getting really this image, this crisis, I mean, led our leadership to ask us to put in place what is called the Info Support Hub. If you want to have a look, and I know that many of you have already, and especially as many have already also helped us to improve that tool. But if you want, for those that have not had a look yet on this tool, you just go Info Support Hub Ukraine COR and on Google or whatever search engine, and you'll find it. And this tool provides several possibilities of support. One of the important ones, one of the latest one, is this help to Ukrainian refugees. And what we do here is that we have already collected, and we continue to collect, needs of border regions, particularly, of course, in Poland, but also in Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Moldova. So regions, cities that are sort of crawling under this big influx of refugees, and they're asking for either material or for possibilities of transferring some of these refugees to other regions, to other cities. And what we've done also is to provide the opportunity, of course, for other cities and regions to offer support in material terms, as you can see here is one of the aspects, but also accommodation for refugees, schooling, jobs, etc. So this is what we do. Once we have these offers, and we've received some, we bring together those that offer to provide help with those that are in need. So we don't do a machine automatic matchmaking that doesn't function in our view. So we really bring these people together on a case-by-case basis. Now, I'm also here to not only to thank those that have helped us to put this in place to improve the tool, but also for you to consider providing offering help, because of course we have a lot of needs, but we don't have yet enough offers. So this is also to promote that matchmaking platform and for you to consider offering that help. This Info Support Hub is also there to help all of you, regions and cities, trying to find out what funding is available. So all the Commission funding, whether that is from DG Regio, ERDF, the CARE program, or whether it's from the DG Home, the AMEF, and many other opportunities are presented here. As I mentioned earlier, we also have information on humanitarian aid to the Ukraine. I wanted to go to another instrument, another initiative that is on the way, that is currently running, which was one also particularly called for by the mayor of Kiev, but in his function as the president of the Association of Ukrainian Cities. And this is the idea to give these children that now are suffering or even risking their lives in this war to be able to go for a couple of weeks, couple of months during the spring or summer outside of their country, to be hosted by some cities, regions in the European Union that can undertake summer children camp type of activities. And as you see here, this is an Instagram post, but the city of Nîmes in France, as one example, already offered to host some, but there are many others, Rome and several other Italian cities, French cities, and I'm sure in the meantime also Portuguese cities. So this is one more activities, and then I'm coming already to the future, or to the future that is currently being prepared. I mean, the war is still going on, unfortunately, and we don't know when that will really stop. But the need for reconstruction, for rebuilding of infrastructure of cities and regions, housing, and to enable economic and social development, that already is very clear. I mean, we're talking about several hundreds of billions of damage, of destructions, and of need of investment. And so there have already been some discussions also with the EU institutions by the Ukrainian side. There was a Congress about 2-3 weeks ago. There was a donor conference last week, and the outcome was, for instance, that the president has asked that some of the reconstruction, some of the rebuilding, some of the development is done really with the help of cities on a city-by-city basis, on a peer-to-peer basis. And this was picked up by both the president of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, but also the president of the Council, Charles Michel. And the latter has written to us. This is the letter implying that, considering that the Committee of the Regions and Cities and Regions should be involved in this reconstructions. And we have basically taken that as a basis to already start the thinking, to reach out to certain other associations, but also to speak to individual cities. I mean, we know that the Ukraine already has gone a long way in decentralizing. I mean, it was a quite centralized country, but by now its governance is quite decentralized. It has a regional policy strategy, and this is certainly a starting position for us. President Zelensky has already put on the table a concept for reconstruction, which sees the involvement of cities and regions in such methodology as twinning and peer-to-peer. Ukraine already has also, with the help of the European Commission, already implemented programs that really already take account of such aspects as peer-to-peer. I mean, this ULEAD program and the COR was already involved in such peer-to-peer actions in Ukraine. So we do have immediate concrete experience of it, and we're ready to come in also on this one. So that's the starting position. What is needed is a dedicated facility, a trust fund, which would promote local and regional partnerships. Of course, also a strong commitment to promote local regional self-government. So cities and regions in the Ukraine should have the possibility and sovereignty to decide on what priorities they want to give to urban redevelopment and regional development. It should be an easy mechanism, of course, because we don't want to lose time with procedures, inclusive, based on peer-to-peer, and of course, I'm skipping some bullets here, but one to mention or two to mention is to base this reconstruction on the Build Back Better principle, so a green and digital transition to reconstruction, and it should be based on the principles of the OECD of multi-level governance and of effective public investments in infrastructure with the involvement of all levels of government. I will skip this slide, but just maybe to give a last slide to show a little bit how we want or how we see this involvement of the COR and local and regional authority associations. So on the left, you see a number of indeed players like, of course, the Ukrainian Association of Local Authorities of Cities and Regions, but we also have already contact with the Covenant of Mayors, with other territorial associations, and with the urban agenda partnerships to bring in that territorial dimension into this work on the Ukrainian Solidarity Trust Fund. And of course, we would work with the government, but also with the other institutions, the Commission, the Parliament, Council on this reconstruction. I would say I will stop here, and once again, happy to be with you and open for questions or comments that you might have. And at this stage, I'll stop sharing and hand back over to you.
Thanks a lot, Bert. I hope you can hear me or you can hear us here. Can you say yes or no? He said yes. Okay. Yeah. So again, thanks a lot, and for this very informative presentation. And well, even if you are working in this UR, you could learn some news and you got some new information about all activities this UR is doing on the Ukraine help. I'm looking around and ask our colleagues if there are any questions left, or was Bert's presentation so well and informative that I see one question from Brittany. Just a second, I will bring the micro to her place.
Representing Brittany region. It's not a question, but a comment. We would have an interest to have the possibility to use crisis mechanism in other European regions. And for instance, in the case of Ukraine, to use care facilities, for example, in Polish regions, in our partners regions. And I think it's something that the Committee of the Region could also defend.
Okay. Could you hear us?
I did, yes. And I'm happy to comment on the comment if that's okay.
Sorry, there's another question. I
Okay.
take them all on board, and then you can come back in one round back.
Hi, Bert. It's Christine Zhang, representing Health in Uzma. It was really interesting to hear the overview of the activities on support for Ukraine. And I'm interested on hearing what's the overall timeline to connect the Committee Regions work with this Ukraine's Solidarity Trust Fund. Will there be timeline for it? How can we be also involved as a regional cities?
Okay, and no, okay. So one question, one comment. I give the floor back to you, Bert.
Yes, thanks very much for these two contributions. Thanks, Aude, thanks, Christine. A quick reaction to both. I mean, first to Aude. Yeah, this care instrument is available to basically all the regions, all those that are receiving refugees. It's 100% it's retroactive from the date of the invasion. It might be more difficult for now for Poland because this care package makes use of unused funds of the last programming period, and Poland has absorbed already very well its ERDF, its regional policy commitments. So probably Poland is a bit of in a disadvantaged position there and might have to use new allocations and hope for a quick sort of adoption of the new programming period programs. Difficulty is, of course, also the question of cash flow. I mean, cities have immediate expenditures, and I mean, these programs, of course, often take time before disbursement is made. But we made that call for a simplification. The president did that and had in this meeting and this event, which I mentioned at the Ukrainian border, the long talks with both the Commissioner for Regional Policy, Elisa Ferreira, and the Regi Chair, Mr. Omarjee. So hopefully, Commission is working on such simplification. And on the question of a timeline, well, that's of course a very good question, but at the moment, well, we don't have the crystal ball. It's difficult to give a timeline and to predict something. What we know is that Ukraine has submitted an application for membership. You've probably heard about that, and in a record time, they filled in the questionnaire to support that application, and that has been well received by the Commission, and the Commission is planning to publish, to adopt its opinion on that membership application by early mid-June, so 8th or 15th of June, which would then go for decision to the European Council, the summit end of June. We expect that probably something would be mentioned also in relation to reconstruction. But again, it also very much depends on how the war evolves in Ukraine, and that doesn't seem to be finished anytime soon. So that was all from my side.
University of Sumy. Sumy is in the northeast, and Sumy was one of the first cities occupied that finally it's no more. So, but that's also Oksana prepared a discussion, so we prepared a presentation so we can have a discussion about the topic. And please use the opportunity to have Oksana in person here to ask questions and to make this debate lively. Personally, I'm extremely grateful to you to have done all the way to come here to be with us, to dive a little bit on these European policy making processes. You are a scholar, so that might be a little boring, but thank you. And now I hope it works. So the first intervention, let's see, there is a way and it's going to be translated with subtitles, so it's sorry, it was okay. Have to listen to or to watch the video in silence, but we have the subtitles. So sorry. Okay. apologize for the lack of sound. Now we have, and Oksana, take your time, everything you want to say. So with us now we have Professor Oksana Zamora. Oksana is a dear friend, but that's not the point. The point is that she made all the way from Sumy to come here with a lot of other commitments to do, also as part of her academic duties and as a reviewer for projects in the European Commission and so on. But that's okay. A real pleasure to have you here, and that's an honor and a very good contribution to have someone that is from the ground on one hand and from outside our circle, and so bringing an external view to all of us. Oksana prepared a presentation, and I would suggest that we could use it as the starting point, but Rainer, it's up to you, a starting point to a little bit of debate. So I hope Oksana will accept to have questions from us and to be here so we can do it a bit live. Then we will have time later in the day to the other duties. So thank you so much. The floor is yours.
See the presentation on the screen, right? Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to be present here, and for everyone just to see us, because, you know, we are constantly remembering now historical lessons from previous situations in different countries, and we realize that like it was not so important for everyone. Everyone regretted but didn't help. Now we are really grateful that the whole world is helping. Sorry if I'm going to be losing my words sometimes because I'm worried a little bit. The session is named really nicely, Europe Better Fit for Future. And by this presentation, I'm going to put a lot of questions, what it means when Europe is better fit for future. I think you will see actually what I'm talking about. And I'll start with asking you to apply those things which I'm going to tell you now to each of your cities, to cities where you work, where you were born. I guess all of you are proud of everything what is happening there, because you put a lot of efforts, you contribute to the development, you all work on the development of infrastructure, improvement of everything, services, medicine, education. You like to see how your cities look like, and now we are at that moment when we are all talking about digital solutions, some e-commerce, e-governance, e-banking, everything integrated into your life. We all are working, and you're working over introducing of green thinking, of reuse of plastic, of moving towards garbage separation, which is really difficult for average citizens in some countries that I know. You engage a lot of efforts for development programs and projects for enhancing civil society, for making people care about their communities and contribute to that. And I know that some countries are really struggling, as Ukraine did, with engaging like local communities in doing something, especially youth, in enhancing self-government. And this is what we mentioned just before, that decentralization, that was a real challenge, because even if legally we do all the framework, it doesn't mean that people know how to do it. That's why Ukraine has spent a lot of years previously, and now in the past 2 years, we trained a lot of local self-government how to do it, how to use this autonomy, and how to attract funds, investments, and so on. Each year, more enterprises appear. They appear to be creative. They appear to be digitally based, and like it makes you to be proud of your community. But then such word comes as regrets, because one morning you wake up and everything disappears.
Actually, as an analyst and academic, I have been following all this news. And for the past 2 years, I had the feeling that it's coming to be. And in the maybe since spring, when we saw all those trainings around our borders, I was sure that the war is going to happen. And some people to whom I talked, they called me crazy because it didn't look like. Because the country lives already, you know, in the 21st century. We are fighting COVID, we are providing digital solutions, we are building infrastructure, and it's kind of barbarian solution to denazify, to demilitarize the country, which is actually is not there. And in the morning of 24th, I got the message from my friend. The message is really terrifying. It all started because just the night before we talked about that. And the night before, I invited a real estate agent to sell my apartment because I felt it's not secure. And she was telling me, don't do it, it's a brand new apartment, because I spent a lot of years on renovation and buying all this, you know, stylish furniture and so on. But then on the 24th in the morning, I had to flee. And I think I was lucky because I was ready for that mentally. And a lot of my friends, they were not ready. They didn't have enough cars. And even if we have roads and the good infrastructure, there was a problem with fuel. That's why a lot of my colleagues and friends were stuck in a blockade. And for several weeks, they were running out of medicine, of food, and so on. A lot of volunteers were helping. And actually, those first 2 weeks, they showed if the community, if each of the communities is ready to fight, to resist. And actually, this is one of the questions which I'm going to ask today a lot. Because some of the cities, if you saw the progress of invasion, some of the cities were surrendered fast, very quickly, and some of the cities were resisting, like ours, even under the blockade. And this is not the question of the military support. It's not the question of the army, because the army was far. It's the question of readiness of those people who live inside to take the weapon and to protect and actually to have the necessary skills about that. So actually, everything that we have been working on was ruined in 1 day, and the list of assaults which you see is not the final one. We are suffering from cyber attacks, and as an analyst, again, I'm very deep in analysis of fake news and propaganda. It's really, you know, scary thing when I realize the scale of it, and everything that I'm going to present in the next slides just shows you a very slight surface. And don't think that that propaganda and fake news which are being produced using Russian money, they're just working on Ukraine or post-USSR region. They're very deep everywhere in each country, and I can give you hundreds of examples in each country which you name. And what is being done by soldiers, and not only soldiers, those Russians which are coming to our territory, it all violates all the international rules. And everything that is promoted or told officially from the governmental representatives by Russians, for example, we are not going to use chemical weapons. It's been done just, you know, it may be been done just as a second when they were telling it somewhere from the TV. So executing civilians is something very regular. We have a project which is done by my friends in cooperation with Ministry of Defense. They translate interceptions of communication of military, of Russian military with their administration and with their relatives. And there you can hear that, for example, Bucha massacre, it was not a chance, a coincidence that some cruel people came there. It was a plan, and it was a deliberate order. And there are proofs already, and these proofs are being collected and applied to the relevant courts. So everything that is done, it's deliberate genocide. And for example, if there is war and the troops are leaving, why would you put mines in the agricultural fields? You understand why, right? Because they want people to suffer. They are stealing food. They're stealing wheat reserves, they're stealing medical equipment, educational equipment from schools. simply to make the territory suffer so much that they surrender. Why? Because they see that Ukrainians don't want to surrender. Why they don't want to surrender? Because you see the picture. Everything that is promoted in this way is something coming from the past, from the imperialism and all these colonistic ideas of USSR, when they don't stand anything independent, anything democratic. And that's why Marcus was telling very right thing, that it's not about the the dialogue or absence of dialogue between Russians and Ukrainians. We have relatives and friends in Russia. It's about total propaganda, which has been working for 20 years, telling that everything Western, they use this word Western, is rotten and bad. And that's why seeing the Ukrainian flag along with European Union flag, it's something that is really, infuriating. And if you see the videos when Russians come to some city and they see this, they destroy both flags. So now you see that it's a problem to fight with the local population because we started to have a lot of partisans. That's why they do so-called filtration camps. So before the civilians can leave the territory where they will be evacuated, or it's done by force, civilians are taken to a filtration camp where they're checked their mobile phone, their documents, they are undressed totally naked to check if they have some tattoos. Somehow they all believe that Ukrainians are Nazis and they will have some tattoos. The photos which we have of Russian soldiers made by themselves prove different, that they have this, Z and even fascist symbols on their bodies, so they think that Ukrainians would have that the same. And then people are interrogated and beaten and threatened, and they are asked if they have some relatives or some connections to military and how to find them and so on. So you can hear the stories when the mother is left in filtration camp and the child is taken away simply because they think that they found some connection. People who didn't pass this filtration, they disappear. And there are also interceptions where they're talking between themselves that the piles of bodies, both of our civilians and of their soldiers, they are 2 meters high in some territories. And they just, use the crematories to cover all this. The other thing which is noted at this slide, as you see, it's a lot of word forced. Because of resistance, they force for blood donation, for example, students. They force to give away the Ukrainian passport. They force to relocate and live somewhere in the middle of Russia. And then they are surprised. They publish very offended newspaper articles saying that we relocated these Ukrainians, women, and they say that our military will come and rescue us. How can they say so? We were rescuing them. So, as you understand that this census and referendum and total mobilization, as they call it, on the occupied territories, it's all also forced. And in total, you see the number, 3.4 million, and this is just, those who are registered had to flee their homes. The number of people is mostly consistent of women and children, as you understand. And the number of those who are forcibly relocated, deported to Russia is coming up to 1 million, and the majority of those are children. And the problem is that those children then are forcibly adopted without any traces back. So parents will not be able to find who adopted their kids later. And those people who are staying in the occupied territories because of different reasons, some of them because of resistance, some of them because they cannot leave their families, or old people. Usually this is a problem of old or ill people or handicapped people. Actually, they cannot leave the territories, that's why they are left without food, without water, electricity, and so on. Now it's getting warmer, it's easier, but you can imagine what's happening when it's cold, when you are in a bomb shelter, if it's a bomb shelter, because usually it's a basement, without any medicine and so on, and violating all these humanitarian agreements, international agreements. Russians just stop people bringing the medicine or food there. They deliberately shoot volunteers and they search for these volunteers. They search for collaborants or any opportunities to find out who are the activists who are first informing the civilians about what is happening around and what is happening in Ukraine in general, because they're constantly telling them that Kyiv has surrendered. They also shoot the buses or volunteers who are bringing medicine and so on, or they steal the buses. So sometimes you can find a volunteer who is killed and the bus, which is full of humanitarian aid, is taken by them. And then they publish that it was done by Ukrainians. So this is my city, by the way. You see the size of the hole in the ground. This is done deliberately. It's not, as you understand, the destruction of anything military. Very often it's destruction of simply some civilian infrastructure. The roads, blocking the ships, looting medical infrastructure, mining agricultural fields. Everything is done to destroy the infrastructure. It means that at some moment, even if people resist, the economy will stop, right? So currently, we are estimating like from 20 to 40% of enterprises are being stopped. They're trying to renovate, they're trying to relocate, but you understand that it all strongly depends on the industry. What I'm telling you now, I'm asking you to apply to your countries and to your regions, how your city will survive if something like this happens. That's why the mayor of Ternopil was saying about all these things which are really needed to keep the economy going, because the refugees who are coming, for example, the mothers, they're coming with children. They would be ready to work, but they cannot work if their children are not allocated somewhere in the kindergartens. It similarly applies to those refugees. We don't like this word refugees, but we are refugees. It applies to those who come to European countries. So the first thing which is needed is to the kindergarten or school where the kid will be engaged and the woman can work and earn for their life. So the next two slides, again, as an academic, I would offer you to see the digits, the impact on the economic growth, the number of damaged institutions, and in general, just a small amount of money for you to understand. $5 billion should be used to reconstruct the educational system and what was done to it. That's why some universities are working on relocation, but it doesn't mean that the human resources will be there. You know, that, for example, such institutions like universities, they are dependent on on admissions of the students. If there are no students who are going to apply, the university will disappear. The university disappears, it means that some kind of scientific potential disappears. So, you know, it's a chain reaction. So, it's an interesting thing that starting maybe a week ago and then finalizing it and crystallizing it officially on the May 9th at the public event and at the parade in Moscow, Putler said that now it's the war against NATO. There are a lot of explanations coming from analysts why he said so, why this thesis came, because there were like at least what I counted, at least 5 changes in official position why this war is happening. It is very difficult to explain to your own citizens why you started the war if there is no sense in that war. But the final conclusion now that they are fighting with the whole NATO and the United States of America. So I think you understand what it implies, combining with the threat to come to Moldova. And if I understand that as you don't speak Russian and it's maybe not in your scope of interest, you are not watching the videos which are coming from, you know, like regular TV shows which they make around Russia. I have one on my phone now, by the way, who wants, you can see it by your own eyes. They are asking people in the street, what do you think about the war? And they say, it's good that we did it because it's a prevention, because NATO wanted to fight with us. They were coming to our borders. So what do you think should be done next? We should go to Poland. Poland is the first country which is starting all this mess. And then we should go to Czech Republic. We should go to northern countries and to again, denazify them. And what is interesting that the general philosophy which you see in the propaganda, again, it's not my opinion, it's the analysis. The general thesis is that they see it as their overall mission that they are the only country which has democracy and understanding of true democracy. So they need to come here and change it, to teach us to live in a democracy. So they're killing not only our economy, but what is happening, it also influences, as you know, our trade partners, and it also influences the food crisis in the world. And of course, if it doesn't touch directly the country here in Europe, it will touch it indirectly because of the prices, because of the demand for some certain goods. And you see it's quite a big number of people who is going to feel it. This is one of the maps which is offered by our government, where they're trying to identify the filtration camps. And it's the contribution to the thesis that it's not only Putin who does it, because you understand that people could confront it, but they don't. They just see the filtration camp and they think it's okay here. The damage has been done, as you understand, not only to civilian or economic infrastructure, it's also cultural and religious. So you see that they are telling that they are saving Russian-speaking population, but they're damaging the churches which belong to Russian church. So there is no logical explanation in it. And of course, a huge number of cultural heritage is being destroyed, which is really devastating, because you know that Ukraine has a very long history. And the most scary, I would say, to each of a human is that they have really inhuman thirst for blood. And this thirst for blood is not something which is like, okay, they have some maniac in a division. It's something that's been praised starting from 90s. If some of you watched any movies which were maybe translated from Russian, the image of the person who is killing, who is strong in this way, who is a bandit, it's good. It's okay. It's okay to abuse someone. It's okay to teach and to be elder brother towards other nations. You see just one of the news that in Mariupol, occupiers took turns raping a woman for several days in front of her 6-year-old son. I can tell you that there are news about 72-year-old woman and a 4-year-old boy. So it's not the problem of one maniac. And it's different territories. And they are talking about death in interceptions. There are some soldiers which are shocked, but they say, but we cannot do anything. So as you see, what I'm heading to is that it's all about a huge amount of propaganda. And an interesting thing which I realized lately is that even Ukrainians who are working with this, like me, with fighting with propaganda, sometimes we don't notice when we use these Russian narratives. They are so deep that they are deep in language, they are deep in communication. Like in Europe, it's called an Ukrainian crisis, while it's not Ukrainian crisis. It's war of Russia against Ukraine and the whole democracy. It's same about like little linguistic things in our language. I will not go deep into that. So all these propaganda things which you can see there, usually something which is mirrored from what is done by Russians themselves. So threatening the world with a nuclear weapon, it's not about Ukraine, as you understand. We simply have chosen the peaceful way, and now there is a debate in the society. Why did we give away the nuclear weapon in 90s than to be threatened by it, if we could simply keep it? Or demilitarized. Before 2014, we didn't even think of having an army. And after 2014, we had an army only along that conflict border. Now the whole country is an army, and even women and children are ready to fight because we see what is happening around. So the thing is that this propaganda sometimes fails because you can see in some channels, in Telegram channels or video programs, when, well, this propaganda is made by humans. They have certain, they call it methodological guides, how to do it, how to write news, how to confront when you are talking with someone. And you can catch this, like when someone forgot to relog in and use the same identity on Facebook to put comments on the European Commission posts, for example, or when they are announcing some victories or some attacks of Ukrainians on some object before it happened, like 1 day before, 2 days before. as if it happened, because, you know, like these are humans. And now what they are doing is to trying to raise the regular population in Russia against us, to involve them in war. They are staging attacks on their own territory. So they are doing explosions and some other attacks, saying that that was done by Ukrainians. So we should stand up for that and fight. So that's why Ukrainians have started this campaign on the internet, which is called hashtag not just Putin, showing what is happening. And there are polls, official polls done by Russian surveys, so you can see it, how many Russians support war, denazifying, demilitarizing, what they feel about other countries. For example, 75% approves the idea of a military invasion in the next country, and that could be Poland. No comments about that. There are Telegram channels, there are groups where some Russians talk about opposition, but I should tell you that the main thesis is that we are not going to confront it directly, because we are very deeply tied with our jobs, with our salaries, and so on. So now you understand that to hope that there is some part of society which will wake up and confront it, it's in vain. It's not going to happen. Too much pressure, too many ways to just, you know, to stop it. And the problem is that it's not, you know, the like separate solutions or decisions which Russians have taken. It's the whole system, how it's done. For example, their army consists of people coming from very remote areas where people were suffering for long because of conflicts. So killing people is okay for them. Or they're very poor, like Chechnya or North Ossetia. And these people are coming to Ukraine, and they hate already Ukrainians because they were brainwashed. And it doesn't matter that they are not well equipped. It doesn't matter that they are not trained. They do different things. And you probably heard about Kadyrov division. They don't know how to fight. That's why Russians use them as those who are standing in the back of Russian soldiers and shoot them if they turn back. So what even they do within their own policy, this military policy, is also genocide. Genocide to little minorities all around its territory. The territory actually which was absorbed because of USSR power at that moment. And the biggest thing is that now it's all being introduced into school program. Just right now, they started the lessons with children who are 4 or 5 and so on. And they're teaching them that anything Western is bad. It's rotten. They are talking about things which European Union use as positive values. They are turning it around that it's bad. I guess you understand what I'm talking about. And the problem is that the media is too trusted in Russia. And what you see is I just made screenshots from very, very popular newspapers in Russia, and I will read you what they say. Russia started to fight with the West for the future of the world. Putin announced that United West tries to destroy sovereign Russia. Rogozin, you know him, I guess, told that Russia can destroy all NATO in few minutes. And this is something that they publish every half a day. Just imagine what has been put in the heads of these people. The last one is that West will not win, but it will not forgive Russia. So be aware. Well, they write PhD thesis about this. And they say that the West and its fascist Christian states would completely control the world. So if not for Russia, the planet Earth would no longer exist. And the symbol which you see, they also started their own propaganda using the hashtag that I am not ashamed, I am Russian. And I'm not ashamed, it means that they are not ashamed of what they are doing. And then you can come back to the cities and see the protests in Berlin and somewhere when they are trying to beat Ukrainian protesters who are silently standing or something like that. So people who are in different countries, they still, even if they haven't lived in Russia for long, they still have this in their heads. And this is the slide about what they do with the young population. So you see that they use children Just look at them. They are putting them on the knees with this Z symbol. They are putting them on the ground to make this Z symbol. It's okay for the kid to wear the military form, and they have so-called young army, Jugendarmee. I think you understood what it means. From 8 to 18, they're teaching them to kill. I'm not joking. They're explaining that the whole road around is the enemy. So when you grow up, there will be a moment when you can come and defend your country. And there are news already that they're taking those who are around 18 to be engaged in the army. Yeah, this is a symbol which they write everywhere, even on Easter cakes, if you saw. So the map which you see, it was done by Estonian researchers. They have marked the places from where those people who were involved in Bucha massacre come in. So we see it's actually all Russia. And I want you please to pay attention to the sign, 1941, 1945. Можем повторить. This is, we can repeat once again. This is something which is deliberately used against European Union phrase "never again," and by fascist sign they understand not just Germany, fascist Germany. They understand actually the whole European Union, and you see the philosophy. I think those who have been engaged in some of this analysis, you understand that when your philosophy or your propaganda is based on not human-centric values but on raping, I think you understand what it means. And it's a publicly allowed sign, which kids can see. So we are, as a nation, we are grateful to everyone in the world who are helping, but we still need a lot of weapons and heavy weapons to stop them, because if Ukraine fails, they're not going to stop, you understand that. And if they not are coming physically here, for example, in Portugal, Spain or Italy, you know that they can do it with their weapons. And the problem is that it's a very, very thin balance between them finding those who are greedy for money, I mean the other countries who can be engaged in cooperation, and then they will be more powerful. For now, this is the nation which is ready to sacrifice millions, really to sacrifice millions of people as a meat just to do what they want. So to finalize, sorry for a long and sad conversation, monologue, sorry. If Russia comes to any European city, is this city ready? The questions what I was thinking about constantly when I had to flee to Czech Republic, they are in yellow. For example, the experience of Ukraine has shown that very often, especially when it's a large-scale invasion, the military, they cannot be everywhere all the time, right? So very often the protection of the city comes to the hands of the territorial defense, as we call it. So do these cities have, your cities, do they have bomb shelters? Do they have something for chemical protection for civilians or for military? Are the civilians trained and ready to fight or to provide some paramedical help? Do they know or do you know how to secure infrastructure, food, water, medicine supplies under active fighting? Because it's not how, every time when you plan it, it's not how when it's going to be a fight. Because you cannot go out simply. Even if you have a storage just across the road, you will not be able to get the wood or water. And what if connection fails and your population doesn't know what's happening around? What if you found a shelter, but in this shelter there are collaborants who are informing that you are inside and that 50% of you are against these occupiers? What if you have thousands of wounded and need an operation? It's not about COVID, because COVID was a disaster, but this is about people who are bleeding now, who are dying, who are going to be infected, and so on. So a lot of questions, and unfortunately, everyone repeats this phrase that invasion of Russia, Russian invasion of Ukraine has changed everything. But I think that not everyone understands deeply what it means that it changed everything. Europe is not it cannot actually live anymore like a peaceful area where everything is developed in a democratic way. We are talking about economic progress, digital solutions. It's also about protection from such countries like Russia, because as you know, it is not only one in the world. And the last message here from me is that I will cite the words of Austrian president, who said that Auschwitz didn't fall from the heaven, meaning that such things like Auschwitz, they are not, like happening out of nowhere. They are coming because of long way of ignorance, neutrality, acceptance, pretending it's not about us, pretending it's far from us. So the verse which I will use as a summary, that everyone needs to take sides, because neutrality will help the aggressor. Thank you for your attention and for your time.
Of reflection we have all day. Oksana will be here with us. I hope you tolerate our boring European affairs that we have to do all the way. But okay, we have one day to reflect about these words and to talk to Oksana, to find questions. And anyway, if there are immediate questions, we have, Rainer told me that we have a few minutes before a break for immediate questions, but of course you have all day to talk, and we are very grateful to have Oksana here. And I'm also grateful for the very organized way you made your case, because I know because we talk, how difficult, how deeply emotional this is for you. And I know the effort you did to make it digestible for us. Everything you said is not words, figures, facts, or pictures. It's indeed happening to your family, to your people, to your city, to your country. So I know that you really did an effort to make it feasible for us to rationalize and to understand how can we be part of the solution, how can we stand not only in words, not only in posts in Facebook, sad selfies, but how can we make it concrete to be together. Maybe the point is that we are here from all countries in Europe. We all have different histories. This building is, you can see there is an history. We have in Portugal 900 years of history, always the same border, the same language. We are a boring country. The same border, the same language, the same territory, the same people. We have all different histories, but we have multiple histories, but we have only one common future. And that common future is about the question of tolerating, yes or no, what is going on. If we do tolerate, I think we have no future. If we don't tolerate, we have to act. And that's why, indeed, I was so keen on having you, so grateful that you could come, also, and so thankful that you make it so well for us to work with your words. So please, if you have, I think, few minutes for questions, immediate questions.